now tuned in to the cold, hard truth. Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Magandang araw po mga kababayan, Joy Anglin po. Nabili na po ba ninyo ang dish pack ng Miracle Brokers? Up to 200 pounds, kaya pong ilagay dito. Halina po kayo, Christmas na sa Pilipinas, tamang-tama po para sa mga ate at kuya. Halina po kayo dito sa Miracle Brokers. Miski pwede pong ilagay dito sa box, pera lang po ang jowa nyo.
Contact us at 949-5989 or email us at info@miraclebrokers.
Okay, good morning, beautiful people. Happy Fab Friday. Thank you guys so much for waking up early and joining me. Good morning, Morna. Morna says it's another beautiful day here in the Cayman Islands. I think Morna has never seen a day that wasn't beautiful. So I absolutely love the positivity, especially on a Friday. So let's get it, folks. Brandon, good morning to you, my friend. How are you? He says it's a blessed Friday as well. And how about Olivia? Olivia is here for it. Marshall, all the way from North Carolina. What's the weather like there this morning, sir? Gadiel, thank you so much for tuning in. Good morning, good morning. Barbara is joining us from Paris. How about that, folks? We got good people all over the world who tune into the show. I really appreciate you guys. We have a couple things on the agenda this morning that we are going to be discussing. So I hope that you guys had a good night. Last night was a little bit of a heavy conversation. We can't be heavy every single day. So we're going to talk about a few things today, including employment. And, I'm trying to figure out a few things surrounding that have me puzzled here in the Cayman Islands. And we're going to talk about some of those things here in a bit. Anybody else with me this morning? Just a reminder, listen, this is a serious request. The people of Honduras are in a desperate situation. Now, first of all, let me preface what I'm going to say by sharing with you all that there's actually some people here in the Cayman Islands who are also in a desperate situation. Every morning I wake up and I see certain bits and pieces of news. I'm just like, here we go. But I do have some persons contacting me to say that in some low-lying areas here in the Cayman Islands, some individuals lost everything. So stuff is outside trying to dry out. And I'm trying to see how obviously we can help those individuals also, because to be quite frank and honest with you, charity starts at home. So we can't be trying to save the world if we don't help our own first and foremost. Thankfully, our situation here is nowhere near what the situation is in Honduras in terms of the widespread, destruction of properties, homes. Some people have lost everything because of the mudslides, and everything is covered in mud. I mean, someone sent me a video a couple of days ago of some persons being cleaned off. I wasn't even sure if they were alive or not, but they were just covered in mud, and they'd taken them to a facility where they were trying to wash them off and trying to get them cleaned off. But you get a real sense of how these persons are indeed suffering. And, that suffering cannot be ignored. It can't go unresponded to. I was doing a bit of reading around the subject last night, and what I found to be of particular interest is that, Hurricane Mitch, which was in the late 90s, was considered the worst Atlantic hurricane to ever hit in 200 years. And that hit basically the same region, and Honduras was the worst hit by that, with over 7,000, over 9,000 persons that lost their lives. They're not sure what the death toll will be in this situation. But one thing they are sure about is the economic damage. Whilst they might not have as many dead people, the economic damage will be far worse than it was before. I think there's a number of reasons. It hit a slightly different region of Honduras. My understanding is that the last storm actually hit the Tegucigalpa area, which is like the capital of Honduras. And now, it's hit, let me tell you what it is. It has hit San Pedro Sula, which is a highly populated area. Some 2 million people, they say, live in that specific area. So that's very close to the border of Guatemala. And yes, those persons have been severely impacted by the storm. So how bad is it, folks? It's so bad that entire towns were buried in some instances. So I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but I think we need to have a stark reality check of what is actually happening in Honduras. So let me guys show you a little bit of footage here so that you can get an idea of what the poor people, my apologies, in Honduras are having to deal with. So some persons have been stranded on rooftops since the storm. This is a photo here of what are now hundreds of homeless individuals who basically have just taken up living under a bridge because they have nowhere else to go. So they have lost everything. They have lost their homes. They have lost everything that was in the home. And quite sadly, some persons have lost their family members. And in one instance, one woman actually lost her entire family pretty much. So the reality there is that the people in Honduras will be suffering for a very long time. I think when you have situations like this, there's an international responsibility to assist. I'm going to read you some of the statistical information that we have on the storm. So this is an article from The Guardian, and it said flooding has left thousands trapped for days without food or water, and the death toll may never be known. Across a sea of putrid mud, a meter or so deep, Marvin Arguta pointed to the remnants of what was his home just a week ago on the banks of the Chamelecon River. He's lost everything, but he still considers himself lucky. And he said, if we hadn't got out in time, we would all have died. He's only 22 years old. He has his wife and 4 children, and they abandoned their house when the floodwaters reached waist height in the middle of the night. And he said a friend of his lost her entire family. And him and his family are among hundreds of thousands in Honduras who lost everything as a result of Hurricane Eta. The storm made landfall, as we recall, off the coast of Nicaragua on November the 3rd as a Category 4 storm before slowly moving across Honduras and then Guatemala. Now, the most interesting thing about this is it has left Honduras more devastated, I think, than even the surrounding countries. Look at this. Those are people's homes, folks. As you can see there in the water, and they're underwater, basically. You know, they're just up to the rooftop. And this is what has happened in a number of different areas. This looks like some sort of a shipping yard in the background. And everywhere is just flooded. There is a RFA Argus that has been sent to assist Honduras, but the situation is really, really bleak. The numbers, like they said, the toll might not be fully known, but the flooding and the mudslides and, just what has occurred as a result of this storm is shocking and unbelievable. It's just total destruction. Absolutely destructive. So there are a number of articles, obviously, that are covering this situation. One individual said that when we first came back to see our home, we cried because everything was buried in mud. This gentleman had recently lost his job in construction and is now living underneath a nearby bridge with about 100 other families. And he says, we don't have anywhere else to go. So that's this bridge that you see here. These people have nowhere to go, folks. In Guatemala, scores of people are feared dead after rain tore off the side of a mountain, burying an entire village called Cueja, I think is how it's pronounced, And as the floodwaters receded in Honduras, the storm's full toll there is starting to emerge. Although the official death toll remains low, people are returning to what's left of their homes to find that it's just scenes of animal and human remains half buried in mud. And there are countless others whose loved ones have just disappeared. In the valley surrounding San Pedro Sula, several rivers and flood canals overflowed so high that tens of thousands were trapped for days on rooftops without food or water, and the total number of victims will never likely be known. This gentleman said, I'm worried about my family because I haven't heard from them. This is a lady, sorry, says Raquel Aguilar, a resident of La Lima, one of the hardest hit communities in San Pedro Sula. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she said the last picture they sent us, all they could see were the rooftops. Economists believe that the loss could be greater even than that inflicted in 1998 by Hurricane Mitch. Now listen to this, folks. We're talking about not loss of life, which is obviously horrific and detrimental, but we are talking about the economic toll. And imagine this on top of everything that has been going on with COVID. So they're saying that the economic toll will be far worse than Hurricane Mitch. And as you guys remember, that Hurricane Mitch was considered the most destructive storm to ever hit Central America and the second most deadly Atlantic hurricane in recorded history. So the brunt of the damage caused by Mitch was borne by the capital of Tegucigalpa and the south of the country. This time, the epicenter of the destruction is near the north coast around San Pedro Sula, the country's second largest city and economic motor. Home to more than 2 million people, there are 13 communities along the tributaries of the Ulua River that are mostly isolated and where many people still are on their rooftops of their homes waiting to be rescued. This was according to Jesuit priest and director of the nonprofit media outlet Radio Progreso. The response of the Honduran government, as usual, has been highly criticized. Many people are saying that they were not prepared for this. Now, check this out, folks. Hoping to stimulate the economy following the downturn caused by COVID-19, the government has scheduled a special holiday for a week that it was slow to cancel despite forecasts of a looming disaster that proved exceptionally accurate. Wow. Folks, this is governments all over the world screwing us, the average person. You know, so they had a festivity, a holiday planned to try to boost up the economy, get people out and about. And guess what? The storm was headed their way and the government did not take it seriously enough. So by November the 1st, the information about the strength and path of Hurricane Eta was already known. However, the government told people or continued calling for people to go on vacation on November the 2nd. And remember now, this was the day before the storm hit. The head of the country's emergency response unit, who is a former reggaeton rapper, imagine this, folks, head of the country's emergency response unit is a former reggaeton rapper who went by the name Killa. Political favoritism, and whose critics say holds few qualifications for such an important job, had only been in the position a few weeks before Hurricane Eta struck. Wow. This goes on to say that this was an event comparable to the catastrophe of Hurricane Mitch. And apparently they're saying that Honduras has forgotten whatever few lessons that they may have learned. And then the country has been left, you know, even more vulnerable to disasters. Wow. So Hurricane Mitch brought 7 days of constant rain Hurricane Eta poured rain for 44 hours. So big difference. However, the water from Eta has flooded areas that 22 years ago were not flooded by Mitch. And it has left a number of people who've lost everything that's even greater than that of Mitch. The effects of the pandemic, COVID-19, will make the rebuilding this time around much harder. And then the Honduran government has called for aid from international communities around the world, who obviously are also struggling with their responses to the COVID disaster. And their own response, it is argued, to Hurricane Eta has been slow and insufficient. So far, the United States Agency for International Development has pledged only $100,000 for what in all likelihood will be a multi-billion-dollar disaster. Let me just say that again. A multi-billion-dollar disaster, folks. And the United States Agency for International Development has pledged $100,000. Here's something that none of us should be surprised at. No expressions of condolences or concern have come from the White House. Anybody surprised by that, really? Let me just, I'm going to put that on the screen because I don't know if you guys just heard what I said. No expressions of concern or condolences have come from the White House. The White House, being in typical Trump fashion, doesn't care about anybody else but himself. And he's still bemoaning his loss at the election last year in his own country on Saturday. In the years following Mitch, Hondurans migrated to the US in significant numbers for the first time. Many of these migrants are granted temporary protected status, TPS, that has allowed them to live in the US legally ever since. But this has been under attack by the Trump administration. So Guatemala has also announced that it will request TPSs for its citizens in the US due to the damage caused by Eta. And it's expected that Honduras, which was hit again the hardest, even harder than its neighbors, will also be doing the same thing with the TPS. So folks, it's a storm that is unbelievable. Again, it only dumped rain on the country for some 48 hours. But despite that relatively short space of time compared to Hurricane Mitch, it is just as catastrophic in terms, or more so, than the economy. Maybe not necessarily in terms of loss of life, but nonetheless, this is what this country is dealing with. The pictures are very horrific. It will bring you to tears when you see families and individuals walking through water, some still stuck on rooftops, and they've just lost everything. They have absolutely lost everything. At least 57 people so far have been confirmed dead as of a couple days ago. They do expect that number to rise as time goes on, because once again, there are people who've not yet been accounted for, because they might still be buried in mud. And who knows if those persons buried in mud will ever be in a position to be found. They may just leave them buried in mud. And maybe eventually the government will get a better fix on how many people have lost their lives as a result of this. But the loss of life is one thing. The loss of everything else, even for the poor people who have survived this, is immense. And that is where we as Caymanians can assist. We as Caymanian Hondurans can assist. So there's a number of efforts, folks, that is currently underway. So I just want to remind you of some of those now, if I can, so that you can reach out to local organizations who are organizing efforts to assist people. So the Cayman Islands Red Cross did post something on social media yesterday. They are going to be assisting the people of Honduras. So they have set up a way for which you can make donations. They are asking for monetary donations only, because they say that this allows them to purchase the things that are most urgently needed for the people of, they're not going to focus just on Honduras. Obviously, Honduras was the hardest hit, but they will be focusing on Central America because people in Guatemala and the surrounding countries do need help as well. So they're asking that you please donate money. They've got a Butterfield bank account there, folks. If you want to take that bank account number down, please do so. There are other organizations on island that are churches and the Lions Club of Cayman Brac that are also going to be collecting funds. So I'm going to share with you some of those. We've got Ride Cayman, who is putting together an ETA relief fund. They're saying clothing is needed, blankets, diapers, bandages, milk, and non-perishable foods. And you can drop off your goods there to Ride Cayman, located in Cayman Bay. There is also F45, which is Cayman Together for Honduras. They are likewise going to be collecting stuff at the F45 studio in the Strand. So they do have a drop-off deadline here of November the 13th, because there are deadlines in terms of like the ship when the cargo is going to be leaving for Honduras. As we said earlier, Cayman Airways does leave for Honduras on the 19th, and she will be subject to availability. She will be taking a load of a cargo load as well. So one person again shared in Guatemala that they lost 23 members of their family. Roland Kalshak told Reuters that he lost 23 members of his family. His mother, listen to this, folks, this is so unbelievable. He lost his father, his mother, his wife, his 3 children, grandchildren, sisters, and sister-in-laws. My God. 23 members of his family. So according to the Red Cross, more than 3.6 million people across Central America have been impacted to varying degrees by this storm. And so it's the entire region that will be impacted. Dozens have been killed. And about 1.7 million of the 3.6 million are people in Honduras specifically that have been impacted by this. So the Lions Club of Cayman Brac, and we had Nicholas on the show on Tuesday. You can always go back and view our shows on Facebook or on the website. Also on YouTube. So Nicholas is spearheading this effort with some other folks via the Lions Club of Cayman Brac. So again, tarpaulins, diapers, blankets, bandages, and non-perishable foods is what they're asking for. Drop-off points in Cayman Brac is Billy's Supermarket and L&M Supermarket. And you can certainly contact them for more information about that. When Nicholas was here, he provided information. There's also some church groups in Cayman who are stepping up to the plate. So remember, you can contact Mercy or Nora at the numbers there scrolling on your screen. And they are more than happy to take your donations and give you information on their drop-off locations. There's a church in Swamp that is accepting donations. And there's also a church on Eastern Avenue right next to Uncle Bill's that likewise is accepting donations. So folks, we got a lot of work to do to try to help the people of Honduras and Central America. I'm asking for you kindly to see how you can assist. I do agree with the Red Cross that a monetary donation to an organization such as the Red Cross is probably a very good idea. They have purchasing power. The Red Cross is a worldwide organization with millions of volunteers all over the place. And they're able to purchase, everything from medicine at a nonprofit discounted rate to all of the other supplies, the water. Having spoken to the deputy director of the Red Cross, which is Carolina Ferreira, in the past, we've heard her say things like, water is very heavy. So for us to ship containers of water from Cayman to Honduras or to anywhere else in the world, what the Red Cross has learned over the years of being in disaster recovery mode is that a lot of times they're wasting good money. So the cost of shipping water, given its weight, is extremely expensive. Even if they get some of the water donated for free, a lot of times they have to end up paying shipping costs and other associated fees. What they found is an easier thing for them to do is if they get monetary and financial donations, they can actually go out and purchase water purification systems so that people can have local water that is cleaned and ready to drink and ready to use for bathing and stuff like that. So they'll set up pumps in different villages and different neighborhoods that allow them to be able to do all of those things. So it's good. It makes good logical sense why they are asking for monetary donations and not just for you to go and drop off a case of water. So have a think about those types of things. Good morning, DJ Yo-Yo. How are you? Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. Irvlyn, good morning. Good morning, it's Lily. I know a lot of you have family members in Honduras that you are extremely concerned about. Marshall says that they had rain there for 2 days and many roads were closed, but it's finally stopped last night. It's cold and cloudy this morning. So good morning to Miss Beulah and Siobhan and Corrine. Catherine is here. Carol says, unfortunately, this isn't reported worldwide. People in the UK don't even know where Honduras is. Wow. Everything is being hidden behind COVID news. That is quite unfortunate, Carol, but I think this is where now the international community, the news community, does have an obligation to do something about it. So some of the deadliest storms in Central America, Hurricane Fifi killed thousands in 1974. Obviously, I wouldn't have remembered that one. I was like 1 year old. Hurricane Mitch, I do recall, at 1998. I always thought that Hurricane Mitch killed more like 20,000 people. I don't know why that was. Maybe the numbers were adjusted down. So yeah, this is, you have a situation of a horrible storm on top of a horrible pandemic. It's a recipe for disaster. And, they're also looking at the fact that another storm could potentially develop, according to some models, over the next week. And it could again head in that exact same direction of Honduras. So my God, these poor people can't really take any more, if you ask me. So unfortunately, what will likely happen is there's expected to be a mass migration of Honduran nationals leaving and heading north, as well as other people in Central America. So chances are they will be heading for Trump country, and they will see if they can make it to the US border. But how the US border will accept them is a whole other question. So the Trump administration has all but halted immigration there, denying entry to those trying to be let in on anything from humanitarian grounds to political asylum. Trump isn't letting you in. Obviously, Trump does not have much time left in office, so it will remain to be seen how many of Trump's policies Joe Biden will be able to reverse. Now, the US is dealing with its own situation with the pandemic. So there are questions of whether or not they will be able to even accommodate people and assist them in any meaningful way. The US is under a lot of strain at the moment. Folks, let me break that situation down for you. The US had reported last night or the night before its highest ever numbers of COVID-19. So it continues to rise in an unbelievable fashion. What are we talking about here? Another 160 cases of the coronavirus. So 8 days after the US hit the $100,000 case mark in a day, that's a single day, that was a record. Now the numbers have topped 160,000 on Thursday. That was yesterday. Dr. Fauci is calling for the country to double down on precautions. Everything he's saying is falling on deaf ears because they have a president who's walked around without a mask and who has said he will not wear a mask. Masks don't matter, blah, blah, blah. And his supporters and his followers, unfortunately, would rather listen to him, a man who has no credentials, no professional medical training, little to no common sense, than the medical experts in the US. So this is going to continue to increase, and it's causing a catastrophic situation. And I'm sorry to say, we've got friends and family members in America as well. And obviously, we are very, very concerned about the situation there because it impacts us in more ways than one. But Americans have been woefully blind to this situation, largely because their leadership has woefully been blind as well. And so a lot of Americans do not believe anything you tell them about COVID-19. And the only way they will believe is when they are on bended knees. California has reached a new milestone, 1 million coronavirus cases. Representative Don Young of Alaska, who's the oldest member of the House, says he is now tested positive for the virus. New York schools are likely to close again soon. Children's visits to the emergency room for mental health issues have risen sharply, according to the CDC, directly related to the stress of COVID. Thousands of Philadelphia area nurses plan to strike as the virus cases surge and their working conditions worsen. The Ivy League canceled winter sports and delayed spring sports over coronavirus concerns. They are expecting the death toll between now and the 4th of December to rise significantly. Thursday represented the first day that the US has gone over 150,000 cases since the pandemic began. What they consider an alarming record that comes just basically a week after they set another record of 100,000 cases. The Midwest, hospital executives warn of dwindling bed space. And as coroners deploy mobile morgues, so this is how bad it's getting, mobile morgues are being set up. More than 100,000 virus corona cases were announced every day since November the 4th. And 6 of the last 9 days have broken the previous day's record, or the previous record that was held. Hospitalization for COVID-19 has also set a new record on Thursday. Some 67,096 people are hospitalized, according to the COVID Tracking Project. It was the 3rd straight day of record numbers, and the figure has doubled in just 5 weeks. Death tolls are also on the increase, with more than 1,000 per day on average. Illinois, where more than 75,000 cases have emerged in the last week, Their governor is now saying maybe we should impose a strict stay-at-home order. But like I said earlier, Americans are likely to propose that. They are saying that, people are infringing on their rights. They would rather have the right to die than the right to stay in their homes and remain safe. And I hate to say it, but it's not going to change until the death toll is so immense and America is suffering so much loss economically and otherwise. They will have to forget about the economics once the death toll gets bad enough. When is that going to happen? What is that magical number going to be? I cannot tell you. But you still have people out protesting, not wearing their mask. They're more concerned about Trump and his fake news about an election that he claims was rigged than staying at home, wearing a mask, and protecting themselves. And mask wearing works. The evidence is there to support it. Meanwhile, Cayman is courting this concierge program. No doubt some of those persons are coming from the US who might be running from the situation there. Case numbers are trending upward in 46 states, holding relatively steady in 4. No state is seeing cases decline. Let me say that again. No state of the 50 states in America are seeing a decline. 31 states from Alaska and Idaho in the west to Connecticut and New Hampshire in the east added more cases in the 7-day period that ended on Wednesday than in any previous week of the pandemic. 31 states. Vermont, Utah, Oregon, among at least 10 states with single-day records on Thursday. The situation is dire in the Great Lakes region. Pennsylvania, Indiana, and Minnesota all exceeded their previous single-day records on Thursday by more than 1,000 cases. Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio warned that hospitalizations had soared to new record levels. Wisconsin surpassed 300,000 known cases this week, an increase of more than 130,000 cases in just a month. Their deputy secretary for the Wisconsin Department of Health Services said COVID-19 is everywhere in our state. It is bad everywhere. It is getting worse everywhere. Mayor Lori Lightfoot of Chicago announced new restrictions on gatherings on Thursday, limiting them to 10 people, whether inside or outside, and issued a non-binding stay-at-home advisory. And city leaders are warning that without immediate action, Chicago's hospitals could soon be overwhelmed. But again, these COVID restrictions, these coronavirus restrictions are not being taken seriously by individuals. In Illinois, Mr. Irvin, the Mayor Richard Irvin of Aurora, says that I would say morale is extremely low as he urges residents to take the virus seriously. I think many people, I wouldn't say all, are to the point where they don't necessarily care anymore. What? You understand what I'm saying? They don't care about a virus that is raging. Americans don't seem to have the ability to stay focused on anything for a long period of time. How can you not care? I get that we are now in, this situation for the better part of 8 months or whatever, but how can you not care when this is tearing your country apart? And the reason why it's tearing your country apart is because you've had a leadership that hasn't cared. You've got people in his administration that downplayed the virus and spread incorrect information, including the president. And so they have, permeated this attitude of we don't care. And the people, that's been passed on to the average person, and the average person doesn't care. It's not good. So all I can say is the poor people heading to Honduras, where are they going? I mean, going to America right now is probably not the best option. You may have better chances of surviving in Honduras than you will in America. In America, you're likely to go there and die from COVID. A couple days ago, we saw in Cayman Brac some individuals, 3 Honduran men, in fact, who were in a boat and they had somehow gotten lost or disoriented. So they washed up in Cayman Brac at Scott's Dock. And my understanding is, as of yesterday, they were in the process of getting them refueled, restocked with food for them to be on their way. I'm not sure exactly where they're going, to be honest. Maybe they are trying to make it to the US. I'm not quite sure. But you're going to have this situation where, yes, there will be a mass exodus of individuals attempting to leave and flee Honduras. And they will come to different places. Maybe some will even attempt to come to the Cayman Islands. What is our game plan, folks? We've heard nothing officially from our government about the situation in Honduras. I'm challenging the government here to please advise us of what they intend to do. We can expect a surge in numbers of people attempting to cross our borders. What is the game plan, CIG? Unity government? Do we have anything in place? If they come on our shores, are we going to be in a position to, assist them other than just giving them some gas and water? Where are they going? What's the plan? How is this going to play out? All of us would like some information on that. In fact, has anyone noticed that our government has not even issued a statement as it relates to the new president of the United States and the new vice president? The vice president being a woman, the first woman on a successful presidential ticket, the first Caribbean woman with Caribbean links, the first South Asian woman. I mean, she's broken so many barriers in terms of first, and our government has actually not issued any statement in relation to this. I think that that's quite interesting. Lily says, yes, there is a storm expected this Sunday. I think I was just mentioning that. Carol says, I know as I live here, but just saying a lot of people in the UK don't know. This has not been reported at all in the news in the UK. Covers regarding storms is when they hit the US. Carol, I'm not necessarily surprised by that, to be honest. I think a lot of Europeans probably live in their own European bubble, so to speak. And certainly, I guess the UK just doesn't probably care much about a lot of other areas in the world. I mean, if you don't even know geographically where Honduras is, I don't imagine you're going to be too concerned about what's going on there. But it is sad. And organizations like the Red Cross is definitely trying to address the issue of letting people know that there is an international, need there. There's a need for the international community to step up. And in Honduras, there's before the storm, there were 6,000 schools without running water. So these are countries and areas of the world that are already extremely poverty-stricken and could really use the help. So Corusita, good morning. Good morning, Gina. Good morning, Miss Sue. Miss Sue says, this is so sad. Poor people, unbelievable, really no help from their government. Yeah, their governments are the worst. I mean, they no help at all. Dominique says that the people of Honduras need to get on their boats by the thousands and come to Cayman and claim some of the asylum. And he's not being funny. Dominique, I'm not sure if you actually want that to happen because, first of all, Cayman, despite what people think in terms of the economic situation here in Cayman, Cayman is a lot closer to the brink of being a third world country than a lot of us really want to appreciate. And so having thousands of people on your shores who are bringing in COVID, who are unfortunately bringing with them, poverty and all of their other issues is not really a solution that is going to help them necessarily as much as you think. And it's certainly not going to help us as much as you think either. Dominique, Caymanians are already feeling encroached upon in so many different ways. We have talks about increasing our population to 100,000, and we don't have the infrastructure to do that. We don't have the hospital facility for thousands of people to come from Honduras. How can we help them? Is by trying to share what little we do have with them for them to be able to remain in their own countries and to recover there in their own countries. So I cannot say that I would support thousands of people from Honduras getting in a boat trying to come here to claim some sort of asylum. The only type of asylum that I'm aware of that's available is political asylum, and that's probably not going to be available to them. You want to help people, and this is why responsible governance is so important. You want to help people to be able to manage their own affairs and to help themselves and their own country people. And unfortunately, when you have rogue governments all over the world, and they're not able to do that, then you're going to have a real, situation in your hand that is going to be worse than this Hurricane Eta. So Sue doesn't think the UK and the US will help, but clearly the response has been less than welcoming, less than warm so far. Good morning to Charles. He says good morning to everyone. So Lily says that UK is helping. Medical personnel is already there. So I did mention earlier that there was a ship. I'm assuming this is a UK ship that actually has gone off the coast. Let me just see if I can find it here. It's FS, what was the name that I just mentioned? So that could be a US, yes, RFA Argus was sent to Honduras for some assistance. This is delivering humanitarian assistance. So this is James Heapy, MP, for the Minister for Armed Forces, authorized the deployment of the Royal Fleet Auxiliary Ship after the Central American country made a call for assistance in the wake of the storm. So this has just happened yesterday. And let me just see here. So they posted a statement on Twitter and said the storm had caused devastation, and the RFA Argus will support the UK's allies, the United States, in delivering humanitarian assistance. So there is some assistance going there. More than 80 British armies have been deployed to neighboring Belize on a training exercise, and they have been assisting the country as well during this time. So troops from the Royal Dragon Guards, the Royal Lancers, and the 4th Battalion, the Royal Regiment of Scotland, are helping after widespread flooding and landslides. And the RFA Argus is a primary casualty receiving ship deployed to the Caribbean region as part of a Royal Navy task group to support British territories during hurricane season. So I think it kind of just hangs out in the region for the British territories such as ourselves who may need it. And thankfully, so far, we're not in dire need, but the people of Honduras definitely are. They also have the HMS Medway, which is another ship that is out there to support maritime security and counter narcotics operations in the region. And by the way, there will be tons of fallout from this, everything from the drug trade increasing as a result of this. So criminals are just sitting by waiting for an opportunity. Now they're going to convince people, oh, you need quick money. Well, here's what you can do. Get into the cocaine trade. And we know the devastation that that has caused, particularly in the South and Central American regions and in Mexico. That leads to added, gang activity. The murder rates will increase. Poverty rates will increase. I mean, it's just an all around recipe for disaster. In San Pedro Sula, at one point, it may still be, I would have to double check, is the murder capital of the world. So it's not the best place in the world to live in any event. And all of that is fueled by and large, the drug trade between Honduras, Guatemala, and other areas in Central America, and people getting through to Mexico with the drugs. It's a very violent city. Good morning, Mr. Walton. Good morning, Anne-Marie. Lulu. Sophia says, are you mad not being funny? To Dominique's question. Ethel says, good morning. Sad news pertaining to COVID-19. Yes, Miss Ethel. We are in quite a situation around the world. Karen says, self-centered, narcissistic attitudes all around. Sue says, Trump has made it worse. Aliano, good morning. Americans are the literal personification of selective outrage, heavy emphasis on selective. Thank you. I couldn't agree more. Amanda clarifies for Dominique that asylum doesn't apply to humanitarian situations. It has to be, according to the 1951 Act, that asylum claims is only under government prosecution. Different opinions, beliefs, religion, political party, it has to be proven. And we know that people don't necessarily get asylum all that easily. So illegally landing in a country and then thinking that you can just be like, well, just give me asylum and that's going to be the response. Not so much so. South Marjorie says, wait, what storm? Oh, South Marjorie, did you miss it? Yes, my dear, there is another storm brewing out there. Dominique says Trump isn't out yet. That's why the government hasn't said anything. But normally they don't wait until January or whenever his official last day in office is. The election has been called. They will be recounting Georgia, I believe, by hand, is my understanding, which should be an amazing feat. But even without Georgia, Trump still wouldn't win. Biden would still win. So Amanda has some additional comments there. Good morning, Lizette. Morna says we hardly have any space here. Well, I tell you what, our way of life and our quality of life is definitely probably on the decline for a number of different reasons, some within the control of our local authorities and some outside of the control of our local authorities. So we can only control what we can control, but I'm always shocked at the fact that we are not doing enough to control what we can. What a mess. Wow. Yeah, so the situation in the US with COVID is out of control once again. Not looking good. Other members of the Trump administration continue to get infected by COVID. There's another person, I think this past week. The Democrats are trying to get a big stimulus plan going, while Republicans are saying they just want a targeted plan. So in terms of the finances in the US, that's what's happening as well. A cyber attack, listen to this craziness, has hit Vermont's largest hospital as the virus cases rise. Wow. So Vermont's largest hospital has been working for more than 2 weeks to break free from a cyber attack that has debilitated many of the health center's functions, just as the state is seeing its coronavirus hospitalization and case numbers spike. So the attack on the University of Vermont Medical Center in Burlington began on October the 28th and locked staff out of many of the systems they use every day to provide care. For a while, the hospital was not even able to provide chemotherapy treatments. And even now, its ability to do so is limited. Isn't this disgusting? That during a time like this, someone would attack a hospital system. Wow. I mean, my eye just started twitching just now. I'm just flabbergasted. Why would you do this? Because of money. I'm sure whoever has done this wants millions of dollars or whatever to be paid out. Or they're just being mean. Kick the US while they're down kind of attitude. We don't know if these people are within the US or without. The feds are investigating this. However, several other hospitals have been hit by cyber attacks in recent weeks. And they're warning hospitals about a possible wave of attacks against US hospitals. So you better tighten up your security, folks. But imagine not being able to get your chemotherapy treatment because they can't even get into the system to say, okay, what dosage you were supposed to get, what treatment number you were on, or whatever. Everything is computerized now. So this is horrible. So yes, attacks have surged in the past 3 weeks. They think that Russian cyber criminals might be behind it. Remember the Russians, that's Trump's friends. And that they have made concerted efforts to target hospitals in retaliation. Some cybersecurity experts believe for separate operations by the Pentagon's Cyber Command and Microsoft against Russian hackers in the weeks heading up to the election. So remember, the allegation was that the last election, Russia played a key role in skewing the numbers and getting Trump elected. So the US was not prepared for that last time. This time, they were much more aware of what they had done previously. And so apparently they took steps to prevent Russia interfering in the US elections. Those steps have the Russian cyber criminals, this is one of the theories that is floating around, pissed off, and now they're targeting hospitals in retaliation. On a private message board, cyber criminals shared a list of more than 400 American hospitals that they said that they aimed to attack. The list was captured in a private exchange by Hold Security, which is a Milwaukee-based security firm, and shared with law enforcement last month. Earlier this year, a woman in Germany was turned away at a hospital that was being held hostage in a ransomware attack. She was sent to a hospital some 20 miles away and died from treatment delays. So unfortunately, some hospitals are not even able to, provide care because of their systems being down. Wow, it's crazy. The world has gone mad. Good morning, Sai. Good morning, Ingrid. How are you, my dear? Looking lovely with your two boys. Good morning, Miss Esther. CC says Trump needs to go bury himself in a crab hole and take them Russians with him. Well, on a lighter note, did you guys see the memes that have been going around about Trump? Some of them have been quite funny, actually. Let me just show you guys some of them. One was about Cayman, I thought was kind of humorous. You know, in light of all that's going on around the world, I think at times we need to have a sense of, you know, just being a little bit lighthearted. We need to find humor in this. Otherwise, we'll all have mental health concerns here shortly. Trust me. I'll show you some of these memes because some of them are a little bit funny. There was someone who did a song. Remember the song Time After Time? Do you guys remember that song? Well, I don't know who sung it, but that particular artist has done a video called Crime After Crime about Trump. And trust me, it's actually a really good video as videos go. Let me see if I'm able to pull that one up because that one, okay, hold on one second here. Let me see if I can share that with you guys. All right, so here's a couple memes. Give you a little chuckle for Fab Friday. So let's pull up, let me see which one. Here's one with President Trump and former President Obama. And it says, it's okay, buddy. I heard the Caymans need a new premier. Now, you know, anybody who says the Caymans, they just ain't right because that's not what we are. But anyway, and then Trump says, I just heard I was elected premier of the Caymans. Oh, no, you weren't. A lot of people are like, please don't even joke about that. Here's another one. Make America Great Again. And Biden is wearing a shirt, a hat that says, we just did. Yikes. Here is Hillary Clinton and former President Obama. Then he sued all of the states and made us recount, so we watched him lose twice. That is kind of funny. Because how embarrassing is that? I mean, the man has claimed widespread fraud when there hasn't been any. You know, even Republicans have said, listen, it's one thing to request a recount, right? Technically, he can only request a recount at the expense of the government if the margin is within 1%. If it's outside of 1%, he can request a recount, but he's got to pay for it. And depending on which state that is, it could run him $3-4 million. But he doesn't want to pay for it. So he's mounting all of these legal challenges through the court system so that the court system and the Americans can pay for it. Now, this is a president who claimed that he wasn't going to take a salary. He was going to save America money. He was going to do all this stuff. And here he is now causing havoc across the U.S. So BBC News this morning, headline says U.S. election security officials reject Trump's fraud claims. And supporters of both candidates are still out on the streets 10 days after the election. This is crazy. So here's what the committee is saying. There's no evidence that any voting system deleted or lost votes, changed votes, or was in any way compromised. Well, We know that didn't happen because the Russians couldn't get in. So this is the committee who is speaking now about frauds, President Trump's claims about fraud. President Trump has claimed without any proof that 2.7 million votes for him had been quote unquote deleted. He doesn't even know what that means. Like, honestly, he doesn't even understand the technology. He is yet to concede to the president-elect Democrat Joe Biden. I think this is the first time in American history this has probably happened. The result of the November the 3rd election was projected by all of the major US TV networks just last week. Biden is now projected to have won Arizona, extended his lead by 11 electoral votes to a total of 290. Trump has 217. Remember, he only needs 270 to vote. It's the first time that the state has voted Democrat since 1996. After a long silence, China has even congratulated Biden. So remember I was saying earlier that Cayman has not issued any official congratulatory remarks. And someone was saying, well, you know, Cyndi Lauper. Thank you, Larry. I should know that. So yeah, but even China has done it. So what's Cayman waiting on? Remind me again. It's unbelievable. So he's suing a lot of, he started a lot of legal challenges in what they consider key states, levied unsubstantiated allegations of widespread electoral fraud. China extended its congratulations to Mr. Biden and his running mate after days of silence. They have said, we respect the choice of the American people. Imagine China. A foreign ministry spokesman said, Russia has said it wants to wait for an official result, whatever that means. So the statement that has now been made by election officials in the US is the most direct rebuttal from federal and state officials of President Trump's unsubstantiated claims of election fraud. So this was a joint statement issued just yesterday by the Election Infrastructure Government Coordinating Council, which is made up of senior officials from the Department of Homeland Security and the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, as well as state-level officials who oversee elections and representatives of the voting machine industry. They said that this is a part of their statement. The November the 3rd election was the most secure in American history. Last time it wasn't so secure because the Russians were interfering. And despite the fact that Trump lost by 3 million popular votes, he still won the electoral count. They continued, right now across the country, election officials are reviewing and double checking the entire election process prior to finalizing the results. While we know that there are many unfounded claims and opportunities for misinformation about the process of our elections, we can assure you that we have the utmost confidence in the security and integrity of our elections, and you should too. It added without naming Mr. Trump directly. Where you have questions, turn to election officials as trusted voices as they administer the elections. And this was posted on the website of Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which is part of the Department of Homeland Security. Even President Obama has issued a statement to 60 Minutes. Let's hear what he had to say.
What are these false claims of widespread election fraud doing to our country right now? They appear to be motivated in part because the president doesn't like to lose and never admits loss. I'm more troubled by the fact that other Republican officials who clearly know better are going along with this, are humoring him in this fashion. It is one more step in delegitimizing not just the incoming Biden administration, but democracy generally. And that's a dangerous path.
And indeed, a lot of individuals have said, even Republicans, that, and even Fox News has said that, listen, Trump can ask for a recount, but by him saying that the basis of that recount is fraud, that undermines entire democracy of the United States of America. So a small but growing number of Republicans are backing calls for the president-elect to be given daily intelligence briefings. So between now and when, President Trump officially steps down, this is supposed to be a bit of a training period for the next elected president of the United States to step in and start doing his thing. Thankfully for Biden, he's 77 years old, so he's had a lot of experience in government. And he's already lived in the White House and he's served in the White House. Obviously, he's not been president, but he has an idea, surely, of what the role entails already. He's got some level of experience having been vice president. But there are things that he should start receiving, including secret presidential memos. And that's normally what the process is for incoming presidents. And he's not getting any of that information because of Trump. Isn't that crazy? So some of the Republicans in Congress are now saying they've either congratulated Biden or accepted that there must be moves towards a transition, but most are remaining silent at this particular time. Let me just see if I can grab another video here for you guys. But yeah, this is a hot mess of a situation, as I would say. It really, really is. So, Pope Francis offered his blessings and congratulations to Biden. Biden will be only the second Roman Catholic president of the United States. Isn't that interesting? I thought that there would have been more, but there you go. So Biden has been busy speaking with the congressional Democrat leadership about the need for a coronavirus stimulus package. And he's been working with his transition team in Wilmington, Delaware, which have been planning cabinet appointments. So we do know that he's already picked veteran Democratic operative Ron Klein, I think is how his name is pronounced, to be his White House chief of staff. So he has a lot of, decisions that he needs to be making, and he's busy, hard at work already. Unfortunately, Trump is just trying to make his life that much more difficult. And it kind of almost doesn't make sense. It's like, why bother? You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to leave the White House at some point. And I mean, by allowing him to stay in there 1 minute more, I guess he's going to try to make, Biden's life as difficult as possible, so that when he eventually gets in, then, what's going to happen? He's going to want him to be at a distinct disadvantage already. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely stupid and ridiculous, and it's petty. Sue says he's not getting back in nowhere. He's done and dusted, just bad loser. Yeah, trust me. Karen says, we're trying to clean house now. We don't need anything worse than what we have in there. Walton shares that the real problem is the people around Trump that keep supporting his crazy alternative facts. Absolutely agreed. Otherwise, sensible people believe everything that comes out of this man's mouth with no logical reason why. It's like people just love a fake news story and a conspiracy theory. Sue says he's mad. There's no fraud whatsoever. Stupid orange-faced liar. He's just a big embarrassment to the US. Good morning, Mark. How are you? Yes, Mark, we were just joking about that if they recount. And here's the thing that has me puzzled. He only wants a recount in the states that he lost. So let me try to understand this logic. You're trying to say that there's widespread fraud, electoral fraud in the US, but it only coincidentally happened in the areas where you lost. What sense does that even make? That is illogical. That is the height of, when people say you're an educated fool, that is it. Like, that makes no sense at all. If there's election fraud, that means the entire widespread election fraud, the entire system is compromised. And you have to redo the whole thing. He told people don't mail in their ballots. That's what he told his supporters. And I tell you what, based on the numbers, they didn't mail in any ballots, because in states where the mail-in ballots and the absentee ballots made up the win, they were all favorable pretty much to Biden. He's the one who carried the mail-in ballots. But you could see where that would happen when your president is telling you not to even do it. Don't trust the mail-in ballot system. So his people didn't. And that may have been one of the reasons that he lost the election. And it's puzzling now that he says, well, that can't be right. So let's recount, but just the areas that I've lost. So everyone feels like this is the ever ongoing election system that will never end. Apparently, Trump is having some issues even with Fox News now. He hasn't really been seen a lot. He's been bunkered or whatever in the White House. So no one has really seen him per se, but he's been tweeting. My apologies. He's been tweeting a lot. And I guess his tweets kind of say what his mental state of mind is and where he's at. So everyone is calling it. Even the Guardian newspaper now has Joe Biden at 290 with over 77 million votes. That's the popular vote. And Trump with 72 million votes. So he is lost by a significant number of popular votes as well as electoral votes. He lost by a greater margin than he lost last time in terms of the, in terms of the electoral votes and the popular vote. Because last time Hillary lost she won the popular vote by 3 million. This time Trump lost it by over 5 million. So it's a hot mess. That's all I can tell you. Let me just have a look here. Thank you, Irvelyn. Catherine reminds us that Kennedy was a Catholic. That I thought I knew, but for some reason I thought there would have been other Catholics along the way. So I guess most have just been, Presbyterian or whatever. Oh yes, Hurley's Media. Thank you so much, Richard. Let's switch gear a little bit. So about a week ago, I got a phone call that said to me, Hurley's Media is being sold, and the players are Dart and the Compass. And I also heard, let me tell you exactly how it went down, that the Compass may have been being sold to Dart. And I thought, what? When I explain the full story, it'll make sense here in a second. So we did make contact on the 5th with a number of individuals. This was over a week ago, quite ironically, saying any truth to the Hurley Media is being sold rumor. And of course, Some parties deflected the response, saying, I can't answer that. So the mere fact that they couldn't answer it made us know that it was 100% correct. We may not have had all the details. So, you know, here at CMR, we started digging. We did speak to the Compass about the flip side of that rumor, which was alleging that they were being sold to DART, and they denied that for sure, that that wasn't the case. They weren't being sold. But we knew that there was something to it. So by yesterday morning, I received confirmation that the deal had advanced to a certain stage, to the point now where they were indeed seeking the approval of OffReg. So, you know, they are an agency that falls under OffReg, and in order to be sold, they do need to have OffReg sign off on the deal. And we reached out to the Compass again and said, listen, just be straight with us. Something that they're not always able to do for different reasons. And sometimes I totally understand. I get it. You know, there's an NDA in place during these negotiations, so they can't technically talk about it. But they knew that we were really onto them. And I point blank said again to the Compass, is the Compass purchasing Hurley's media? Because now we know it's going down. We know that's being purchased. We heard that Mr. James Bergstrom, who's the owner of the Compass, he is a partner at Ogier. He's an attorney by training. That he was definitely purchasing the Compass. And we heard other names like Marcus Cumber being thrown into the mix. You know, Marcus is a business partner with Randy Marin. Randy owns Hurley's Entertainment, as well as other businesses, C3, what's his gas company called? Clean Gas, and a few other businesses. And him and Marcus Cumber are actually very good friends, I'm assuming, as well as business associates, because they are involved in a number of businesses and investment things together. So Marcus's name being thrown into the mix wasn't really a surprise to me. And, you know, we heard that at this stage now, it was at the point where they were going to be receiving or had applied for regulatory permission. So they had formally applied for OffReg to sign off on the deal. So we were able to confirm that in the midst of us writing our story and waiting on a response from the Compass and whether or not they were purchasing Hurley's media, they did then release a statement that their parent company was purchasing Hurley's media, which, like I said, we already knew. So we had to rewrite our story slightly in light of their release, and then we put it up. So the Compass is seeking to acquire the radio stations, which makes up part of Hurley's Entertainment, Hurley's Media. As you guys will remember, the TV station used to be part of it, but the TV station was shut down in August of 2019. So what do you guys think about this? Richard, you asked the question. You know, basically what it's going to mean is that the Compass will, I guess, become Compass Media. I don't know if they'll rebrand or rename or anything, but they're going to have their newspaper, which is primarily now online. They're only doing print once per week. They will be taking on the management of radio stations, at least 22 employees. Now, what I found particularly interesting about this situation, I must be honest, is it's a bit odd that the Compass has been going through this transition. We saw them lay off their street workers even before COVID hit. Then they changed their mind after we disclosed it, brought the street workers back. Obviously, they're now gone because there's no physical newspaper. They were sold by Leggy, acquired by James Bergstrom and his whatever company he set up to acquire the Compass. And they have said that they've been struggling financially and that COVID didn't help them at all. So they were first asking for donations. Then they went from asking for donations to doing a paywall system where after 5 articles a month, then you have to pay to read the news. And so they've been going through a very interesting transition, and they let go some of their employees who'd been with them for like, oh my gosh, years. Oh, like, whew. One lady, Miss Karen, 40 years maybe. And so they've let go a lot of employees, and they didn't really ever make a statement about the people that they've let go, or the fact that they've let go a lot of people. That went completely unreported. It was very strange, because I think we may have been the only ones that reported on it. Miss Jewel, who used to work at the Compass for, I think, over 30 years, she's let go, she's gone. They actually let go a lot of their Caymanian employees, and they kept people on work permits, which I know for a fact in the local community has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Now, here's the thing, right? This is incredibly interesting. When Cayman 27 went defunct, you guys will remember that the Compass picked up some of their staff, including Rejma Raganoff, Kevin Morales, and who else did they pick up? I think there might have been a few others, but those were the 2 off the top of my head that I can remember in terms of heavy hitters. So they picked up those 2, and they not long after that, you know, stuff started to happen, I guess, economically, and then they have let go. I think everyone they let go pretty much was a Caymanian. So Sheena, did they pick up Sheena? Which Sheena, Mark? They picked up Sheena from Cayman 27? No, I'm talking about the Compass acquiring employees. Sheena hasn't worked for, nope, Sheena's not at the Compass. In fact, I don't think Sheena worked for Cayman 27 when they had shut down. I think she already had left. She was, wasn't Sheena at Digicel for a number of years? And I'm not sure where else she's gone, but she wasn't there. But they've let go a lot of employees. And like I said, it seems from my recollection that all the employees that they've let go have been Caymanian. So the Compass does attract a certain flavor of readership. You know, everybody has a role to play. I find that, in my opinion, CMR, we are more focused on locals. So we carry all the news and stuff that a lot of locals are interested in. We also focus on a lot of regional stories. So people from, you know, Jamaica and Honduras. I'll tell you straight up, with this situation with Honduras, I don't even know. I mean, I haven't looked at the Compass to be fair to them. I can have a quick look, actually. Let me not say this about them until I have a look. I don't even know if the Compass has covered anything on Honduras, really. I don't see anything right now on their homepage. So I don't know. Has anyone seen them cover anything in Honduras? So there are certain stories that we do cover, regional stories, and a lot of people are saying to us that, you know, they kind of see us as the go-to spot for regional and Caribbean-based news. Our focus is obviously the Cayman Islands. It is called Cayman Mall Road after all. But, you know, we get that Caymanians are connected to a lot of different communities in the region. So we do, you know, cover things of local interest all the time. Anyway, I think that they have a certain type of readership, and I don't know that that type of readership is really into the Cayman, like into the radio stations. And in particular, they're acquiring 4 radio stations. So they will have Bob FM, Z99, Rooster, which is a popular local station, Rooster 101.9, and what's the other station that they have? Bob FM, Rooster, Z99, and there's a 4th station. Oh, Irie FM. And you'll remember that Irie FM was actually acquired from one of the Rankin boys, Kenny Rankin. So IRE FM used to be part of, what was the name of it before? I can't even remember, but you guys probably remember this, right? Now here's something that was kind of funny. You guys kind of cracked me up with some of the comments on social media. So a lot of persons were, I don't know if offended is the right word, but when the Compass changed the paywall system, a lot of people said that they were not going to pay to read the Compass. They're like, screw that. I'm not going to pay to read the Compass. And what is so funny is sometimes the Compass might beat us to like a certain story. Sometimes, like I said, we cover stuff that they don't cover. We might beat them to a particular story. And if they beat us a story, we will literally have people message us and say, hey, Sandy, can you cover this story? Because we want to read it, but we're not paying the Compass to read it. And I just chuckle because I think it's so funny that people actually will be like, here's a story we saw. We saw the headline in the Compass. Tell us what it's all about. You do the story. And we do the story. I mean, most of it's kind of run-of-the-mill news anyway. So Sharon says that I get my news from Cayman Mall Road. I've stopped reading the Compass over a year now. Mark says they're waiting to cover you. Cover me with what? Blessings. So, I mean, it is an interesting question of how, yes, it used to be Vibe 98.9. Now it's Erie FM. There is really a question of how this will shape up, right? Now, there's some other interesting things that are happening in the world of radio. And remember years ago when DMS came on board, everybody's like, oh my God, how many radio stations does the Cayman Islands need? And we do have quite a few. And people were starting to feel that, there's so much oversaturation in the world of radio, and it's very, very competitive. And I would love to know, and I'm probably going to stick up a survey in the website a little bit later on, how many of you actually still listen to the radio station, like seriously listen to the radio station? We've got a government-run one, which is Cayman, Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman also has Breeze FM, so they have 2 stations. DMS has 4 stations with some changes coming here shortly. Hurley's Media has 4 stations. Plus there's like a couple, ICCI has an independent station. There's a couple of religious stations, about I think 2 or 3 of those. So we have at least 15 radio stations in the Cayman Islands for a population of 65,000 people. That's not, that's super competitive, right? And there's only so many businesses that can advertise on these stations to keep them afloat. Now, there's always been a reputation of the Compass, largely developed under Leggy, of being greedy and super, all about the money. He was insulting at times. He would write editorial pieces that degraded the Cayman Islands, that looked down on the Caymanian people. He seemed to have been very disconnected from the average person, but yet was sitting in an editorial position with his so-called editorial board, where they were writing and making a lot of commentary about what happens here in the Cayman Islands. So during that time period, I can tell you, Sharon, a lot of people stopped reading the Compass. A lot of people were not impressed by Leggy and his management of the Compass. And I don't know if that impacted his bottom line in terms of revenue as well. When Mr. Bergstrom took it over, I think people were happy to see a Caymanian take over the Compass. Again, he is a Caymanian of a certain, position, financial position. He's a partner in a law firm. He's well established in his own right, professionally and financially. I don't really know how much hands-on he has with the Compass. It seems more like he's got a publisher, he's got an editor. He probably just allows it to run as an entity, and he just owns the company that owns it, sort of thing. There have been rumors that have circulated for a very long time that DART has a hand in the Compass. No one has ever denied this. DART has never denied it. The Compass or no one else has ever officially denied it. And it's kind of one of those rumors that is in such wide circulation that you really hope that somebody would deny it. Tell us for real that DART has no ownership in any aspect of the Compass, the parent company or anything else, right? Just say that this newspaper is 100% Caymanian owned by James Bergstrom. Somebody, Compass, make the announcement, put our minds at ease so that this rumor can be put to bed. The fact that it has never been addressed is one of the reasons why people continue to engage in the rumor. Wink, wink. The best way to address fake news is with the truth, folks. Wake up. Anywho, they've never addressed it. And so, they've said they've had financial issues, not just because of COVID, but because of changing times, and government no longer makes it mandatory for people to advertise jobs in the newspaper. So that has declined and impacted their revenue. I understand that a lot of their employees are under pressure. We need stories. We can't be letting CMR get us. We can't be letting Cayman News Service get us. Let us, make sure we're on top of all these stories. And they're feeling a lot of pressure to produce content, to write. They're going into video content. So just a couple of weeks ago, Rejma launched her version of the Cold Hard Truth called The Rush Hour, because her name is Rejma Ragamoff. And then so it's the Rush Hour. Okay, it's based on her name. So she's now doing an evening show on Wednesdays, and she's coming in with heavy hitters. She's had the governor in her show. Last time she had the head of the elections office. They've got a studio because they can afford way more than we can here, folks. We're not going to compete with them when it comes to money. They can outspend us. So they've got a studio with the fake background, the green screen, and all this kind of stuff. And yet, even with all of that, Rejma's show is, in my opinion, a dismal failure. And I'm not saying this because I don't like the Compass. I'm trying to pick on her. I'm saying this because the Compass numbers themselves support that. So currently, the Compass has on social media, they've been around since 1965. So let's keep that in perspective. And they have on social media, let me just see here, some 27,327 people who've liked their page. Yes. And then they have, in terms of page followers, let me just see here. In terms of page followers, they have, I think, over 30,000. Give me 1 second and I can actually tell you. One great thing about Facebook is Facebook provides you with awesome information and video likes, video shares, how many people have read or watched a particular video. I mean, Facebook is awesome with that sort of thing. So let me tell you for her show, I can tell you here in a second what her numbers were. Okay, so she did her show on the 11th. She had the election supervisor, Mr. Wesley Howell. Let me see if I can tell you. 4.4 thousand views. Now that's actually pretty good for her, because normally she doesn't have that many views. But she's only just gotten started. I mean, on average, she has about 35 people kind of tuned into a live stream. So with only 4.4 thousand views, though, when you have over 30-something thousand followers, they have 27,000 likes. Oh, yes, their followers, 36,502. So they almost have 10,000 more followers than they do page likes. And that's normal to have more page followers than likes. I don't know if people even know what the difference is between liking a Facebook page and following a Facebook page, but we have the exact same disparity. We always have more followers than we do likes. And it just is what it is, right? So let's just have a look by comparison. CMR has, I'll just tell you here now. And one of the reasons why I provide this data and statistical information is I don't ever want people to think I'm just hating on the Compass because we are their competition or vice versa or whatever. That is certainly not the case, right? So we have, let me see here now. CMR has 15,315 likes, page likes, and followers. We are more on par with them at followers. We have 30,200 247 followers. So they still beat us in both categories, but the number of followers is a lot tighter. So I think they have us by what, 6,000 there. But in terms of page likes, they beat us up there because they've got 26,000 versus our 15,000. Now here's where it gets interesting, right? Facebook does a really good job of providing you with statistical information against other pages that are in a similar space as you are. So when you look at the Compass and the number of the traction that they have, so in other words, their page followers versus what CMR has, I want to show you guys this graph because this is really important to understand how social media works and the play and what happens. For the past 2 years, so it took us maybe a year to kind of get within range of the Compass. I would have to check the exact date, but have a look at this information. This is taken straight from Facebook this morning. So in the past week, the Compass has, in terms of engagement, 116,000.2 persons engaging with them on social media. Engagements are reactions, comments, shares, that sort of thing, right? Despite them having, and what they do is they use the page likes number. So they've got 27,000 people, 0.3 that like their page, and we have 15.3. So 27.3 minus 15.3, my mathematicians in the house, that is 12,000. That's a difference of 12,000 more people that like their page. But the end result is, even with having 12,000 more people like their page, they're not getting people as involved. So we still have way more people engaging and interacting with the things that we post. So that's interesting. And we have been in the top 2 positions. Loop, Cayman News Service, and the others are kind of at the bottom. When Cayman 27 is around, I could go back in our archives and I can show you that even when Cayman 27 was around, they had a huge following as well. I think they had more than what the Compass has. And we were in the same position as them, where we were constantly outbeating them. Now this margin here, 116 to 136, isn't all that significant. I mean, it still is obviously an increase. It's a win for us. However, there have been times when that number has been significantly higher, like the margin. So that's about a difference of what, 20,000? There are times when it's been like 5 times that we have been outpacing them. What does that say about the readership and the people that are engaged in news? News has become more of a community situation, especially here in the Cayman Islands. So we're all in the news business. Richard, you're in the news business. Mark sends me photos. Miss Morna, this is what's going on in the community. And CMR has managed to leverage that into a news platform that, hey, it is what it is, right? Richard says, I'm just wondering if they're about to let go of all of the staff currently working for Hurley's Media. Well, let me tell you what I do know about the staff situation at Hurley's Media. Presently, they have 22 employees working. I think a lot of those are probably part-time workers like DJs and stuff. They work part-time. At the same time, they're down from about 50%, down from 40 something pre-COVID numbers, because they haven't called back a lot of their staff. So I know, like, some people are like, what happened to Dean on the radio? I don't know what happened to Dean on the radio. He's never been called back as far as I know. They were all told to go home during COVID, and they've never been called back. So now that it's potentially going to be under new management, what's going to happen? Will staff be laid off, Richard? One thing that we can see about the company that owns the Compass, when they took over the Compass, they went lean, very, very lean. Employees are expected to use their own equipment. They get like a little stipend for using their own equipment. I actually heard a Compass employee complaining about the fact that they had to buy their own batteries for their equipment. And this was done at, funny enough, at a political office, and I was not the only person who heard it. And I kind of thought, okay, that's a tight budget for you. This was before, I believe, before Bergstrom took it over. And so, maybe they're used to running a little bit of a leaner organization. And so perhaps there will be some cuts. I suspect there will be some cuts. And then you have to ask yourself, it's funny because now Rejma and Kevin Morales, who were both working for Cayman 27 previously, will now go back into the Cayman Bay environment because that's where Hurley's media is. The Compass has a building on what is that? North Sound Road and Shedden Road, the corner there. They have vacated most of that building because I know the upstairs has been put up for lease. And so the question then becomes, well, where are they going to go? Is the Compass going to integrate and move into Hurley's media location in Cayman Bay? Or does Cayman Bay, all the Hurley's media now go to the Compass location? It'll be interesting to see how the merger happens. Now, remember that in order to purchase Cayman 27 some years back, Randy Marin had to borrow money from Dart Finance Limited to do so. Yes, Dart has his own financing company, folks, because that's how he rolls. So you need some money, go hit up Uncle Dart to see if he can loan it to you. So he borrowed, I think, a couple $1 million or whatever it was at the time to purchase Cayman 27. Cayman 27 has never been successful financially. We know this as a fact. So I was always puzzled at why you'd borrow money to purchase an entity that has never been financially successful. And I can't imagine when Dart was sitting down considering this, okay, we're going to loan you money. I'm sure they look at all of the numbers and they really think to themselves, how is this going to work exactly? And if you're purchasing an entity that has never been financially viable, tell us how you're going to pay back our loan. There must have been some interesting discussions around the table on how that was going to work. And it was something that obviously convinced Dart that it was a good idea to part with a couple $1 million of his money. Having said that, I think that this is where the rumor now that Dart has media controls probably got a little bit more of a foothold. And there was an article at the time where Dart said he does not have ownership in Cayman 27. He has simply supplied the loan facility in order for Randy Marin to be able to purchase Cayman 27. The question that I remember thinking at the time, other than why would you be purchasing a company that has never been financially viable, is also what really would have convinced Dart to do that? You see, you go to someone like Dart to finance your projects, probably when you don't want to go to a traditional bank, because a traditional bank is going to be like, we're not going to give you money to buy a failing TV station, where we can see on the books that you went from $600, $1,200, thousands of dollars for a 30-second spot in their heyday, and they still weren't financially viable because it cost so much money to operate all the arms of a TV station. But at least you had this revenue coming in, and then you're being floated by the cable side of things when it was Westar, Westel, whatever changes they went through, right? Down to $60 for that same 30-second spot, because that's how cheap, that's how competitive and cheap the market has gotten. And people can have, video production. Listen to me. We can do a live stream event like we did last week, Thursday. And over 10,000 people have viewed that single live stream event. The Compass did one on Wednesday, and the weeks before that, and they have maybe 3,000 or 4,000 people that have viewed it. So the consumers are looking at these raw numbers, which are readily available for you to see on social media for yourselves. And they're thinking, where do I want to spend my money? I can get cheaper rates with Cayman News Service, Cayman Mall Road, and others. Or am I going to go for the ultra expensive Compass? And their rates have not decreased, folks. Although they're asking you to pay for the paper, their rates for production and different things has remained extremely high. And I've seen their, for example, their election rate sheet. It's crazy what they want to charge people to cover events and all this sort of thing. So they still have a lot of staff to pay, I guess, right? And they're still looking to still make a profit. And so my question then was, what would have enticed Dart Finance to finance this deal? What was it? Well, one of the things we know for sure, and that was part of the deal, you have to move into Cayman Bay. So not only are you going to repay your loan at whatever interest rate, but now you're going to be paying rent. You're going to be paying rent to Dart. Now, I don't know how much the rent is. I know they have downsized already after Cayman 27, became defunct. But they had a good chunk of real estate there at Cayman Bay. Now, Dart gets very creative. Dart Real Estate gets very creative with who they enter into with partnerships for, who's going to come into the Dart locations. And one of the things they like is high visibility companies. So it looked good to have all of these radio stations lined up there at Cayman Bay. It takes a lot of money to get into that location. You've got to fit it out in a specific way. Dart doesn't allow any Tom, Dick, and Harry to come into his facility. He's got to approve you. They want to see your finances. Yes, because I understand they use the American model where your rent is based on the income that you make as a company. So not everybody pays the same rent per square footage, whatever. It depends on how much money you make. So having a big name like Starbucks in a Cayman Bay, they thought is better than having a local coffee house like Cafe del Sol. That's how they think. And that's why they didn't renew with Cafe del Sol and gave it to Starbucks instead. I've stepped foot in Starbucks once since it opened, and that was for the grand opening to do an interview for the show. I don't drink coffee. I'm not a Starbucks person. Occasionally I'll have a Frappuccino. And guess what? I still love my Frappuccino from Cafe del Sol and my sandwiches from Cafe del Sol. So big names isn't always better. And this is one of the things at marketing, folks, that people got to figure out. So the average Joe now gets that there is power in local media. We have made some connections with people in Honduras who have wanted to work with us, and they've reached out and said, hey, we'll provide you with like regional news or information or whatever. I've got a guy right now, Dwin Bodden. He's like, I want to write Honduras, Bay Island specifically, news for you guys. Can I come on board? And we're just a small little team here. We ain't posh. We don't have no big headquarters or anything of the sort, right? So Aliana wants to know, is there a way that we can see a registry for the Dart Corporation who owns this land? Well, the Dart Corporation is his name, Ken Dart, and his family, some of the family members. And they are the largest landholder in the Cayman Islands, and they're buying all the West Bay Road, folks. Pay attention. That's a whole other show and a whole other conversation. Sharon says, exactly. The Compass claimed that they're broke, now buying 4 radio stations. They really take us for fools. Well, I think it's a reputational question, Sharon, that they probably want to answer at some point, because people are saying the exact same thing. They're thinking, was the Compass hoodwinking us? Were they lying to us about their financial position? I thought, until I heard this news about the acquisition of the radio stations, maybe Mr. Bergstrom doesn't really care that much about the Compass, right? This is my thinking now as a business person. Maybe he acquired the Compass because of the assets that the company has, namely the property on the corner of Shedden Road and Sound Road, because that is prime real estate property in the middle of Georgetown. So even if you pay Leggy a couple $1 million for the Compass, and it's a failing entity, because I think it was failing before Bergstrom purchased it. That's my personal opinion. I don't have any finances to back that up, but I don't think it was as profitable. Like Bergstrom probably overpaid for the Compass, in my opinion. But the only reason he would have done that was to acquire the building, the property that the Compass holds, right? Because now he's sitting on some nice central Georgetown $1 million piece of property. He could do a lot with that. And the Compass was just like a side acquisition, like, yeah, okay, I'll own a newspaper. Having said that, one does appreciate and understand that there is power in media. So the fact that you can put up a story that's going to reach not just thousands of people locally, but international people can go to your platform and they can read what you have up. And they can see, all of the information that you have there. Of course, there's power in that. And that's another reason why people speculate that DART, because people have this idea of the DART organization as being power hungry, land grabbers, greedy foreign, business people who want to own everything in the Cayman Islands. They want to control everything in the Cayman Islands. They want to control how we think, what we eat, how we dress. I'm not saying that that's necessarily the case, but that is the perception of what DART is, the DART entity. And so what better way to control the people than to control the media? Now you're going to acquire 4 radio stations. Those radio stations, a lot of times, as all radio stations came out, struggle with playing local content, promoting local promoters, local company artists. And then you have in the mix, poor Woody over at Rooster. What's going to happen to Rooster? What's going to happen to Woody? A lot of people have been courting Woody to run for political office. They're like, Woody, this is your turn. This is your year to do it. So I don't know if Woody's made a decision yet, but that's going to be really, really interesting because, we'll see how the Compasses, if they acquire it, if the deal is signed off by OFREG, how their influence will now change the landscape of what would have been formerly Hurley's media. How will it impact you? Will you be, I don't know how many of you still listen to radio stations, but will you be extra engaged, more so in Cayman Crosstalk? Will you find that it's going to be as impartial? Is it going to take this little bit of a tinge now of, how the Compass does things? So yes, the Compass tends to have a lot of employees. Like I said, most are now foreign workers. And I got to tell you, a lot of the average Caymanians do not like getting their news from foreign workers. They feel a way about it. They're like, why am I listening to Rejma and Kevin Morales for local news? What makes them the experts on what's happening in the Cayman Islands? They're here on work permits. How much do they really appreciate and understand what the average Caymanian is going through? They do try to address, to be fair to them, local issues of concern. I saw they did something recently in housing, the difficulties of people getting affordable housing here in the Cayman Islands, which is a real concern. But people still don't trust their platform. And I was actually quite frankly saying to Wendy Ledger yesterday, this is a type of acquisition that probably will help her and I to a great extent, because you'll find that people will, the Compass, of course, is going to sell marketing packages. Well, if you market with us, the newspaper, now you'll get marketing across these 4 radio stations. Well, who's listening to radio? There's no way to prove, like how I can statistically prove, go to Facebook, here's the analytics, here's the engagement numbers, here's what we do, this specific post we put up for you, this is how many people viewed it, this is the interaction. No such thing exists in the world of radio. You do not know how many people are listening to a radio program. They can tell you anything. Oh, we've got the best listenership in the world. They could be lying through their teeth, and there's no way for you to know that. There are some agencies on island who try to do these, what do you call them? These surveys all the time. So Lynn Biles' company, I forget what it's called now. She's always doing surveys like, where do you get your news from? Where do you get your information? And then what they do is they sell you those surveys. So they want to sell it to people like us, media houses. Oh, pay us a couple $1,000s and you can know the results. Well, I actually don't need to pay you a couple $1,000s to know the results. I know that in 80% of the people that you surveyed, because we got some straight legit sources of information. 80% of the people that you've surveyed say that they go to Cayman Mall Road for their news source. So why am I going to pay you to get that information that I already know? Everybody's trying to get a little dime. So speaking of a little dime, Mark says you need a cash app to grow your production. A cash app in terms of a physical app, like a phone app, or what? Here's the thing, Mark. Money is not everything. So we have been able to keep CMR lean and mean. We're not begging for donations yet. We don't have a paywall because we keep it so lean. You know, yes, it does cost some money to run and operate, but we do have some advertisers on board and we get money from other places, and we will always find a way to make it work. So they will do their best. Oh, you know, during election time, but you know, PPM isn't going to advertise with us. No, don't advertise at Cayman Mall Road. That's okay. We're going to be A-okay. And we don't need to like go out there and beg extra hard for anything. We're going to keep it real. Julie says, yes, Sharon, they can take us for fools because they know that we are fools, told to them by our own. Mark wants to know what's going to happen to Woody DaCosta. I don't know. That's the $1 million question right there. Woody, you want to come over to the Cayman Mall Road? Woody, go run for politics, child. Go. You know who you need to run against, Woody? Alden and Red Bay. Go knock him out. There was a bigger picture, Sandy. If they default on the loan, you get to keep other businesses for cultural. I don't think Randy is going to default on the loan. What I think is going to happen, obviously, is when this sale goes through, I'm sure the loan is going to be cleared off. Now, in terms of if DART has any ownership in the Compass, like I said, that has been in circulation. So we don't know if he does or if he doesn't, or what the ins and outs of that are. Julie is coming hard this morning. She says, ask those who sold us out. They have at least half of the island bought out. While we were sleeping, the snakes came out to eat. So my darling Caymanians, stay right there. So sleeping. Yeah, time to wake up, Julie. So is it a business sale or default on a failing on money borrowed? No, it's a business sale. Randy will be collecting his coins. He will be making a profit. I'm pretty sure of that. And yeah, he's not going to be losing anything. Trust me. El Rey says, doesn't DART fit it out for you? I don't think he does the fit out, but I think there is a significant approval process where they have to approve your fixtures and your fit outs. And, you know, you can't just go in there with any and every little thing. Like, you got to be willing to drop some posh money to be in Cayman Bay. So, you know, their argument will be that they're trying to keep it up to a certain standard, right? Carol says, what DART did to Cafe del Sol was disgusting, and Starbucks has awful coffee. Well, like I said, I don't drink coffee, but I will agree with you that the move that they made was definitely not an impressive move at all. And I think a lot of people felt a particular way about it. And you know what? There is another Cafe del Sol there in the Marquee Plaza that is right around the corner. So a lot of people are like, I'm going to just go there. I'm not going to go and support Starbucks. So I think the way in which that was handled has probably been detrimental to Starbucks. And then maybe there are people who just don't care, who go to Starbucks regardless. Gadiel says DART knew that the business was going to go belly up inevitably, and knew that the terms of the agreement would allow him to take over HM, Hurley's Media, with little to no cost to him. Well, his investment, so let's just remember this now, Gadiel, for the purposes of being as accurate as we can be with the information that we have. His investment is the loan, I should say, not really an investment, but the loan was for the acquisition and purpose of purchasing Cayman 27. So he wasn't technically purchasing or getting involved in all of Hurley's Media. He was just loaning the money to purchase Cayman 27. So once Cayman 27 closed, that doesn't mean that the loan disappears. You still got to pay Uncle Dart his money back plus his interest. So Julie says, Uncle D is the man with the plan, but I know someone who's bigger and have bigger plans. Yeah, buddy. South Marjorie, the thing is, Dart didn't just walk in. He saw an opportunity and he has what he knows they want. So he steps forward. Those who he stepped to are getting more greedy and not thinking about the locals. That's my opinion. Yeah, I mean, listen, Dart is a businessman and he's entering into things that will no doubt benefit him in more ways than one. And I suspect that there are times when it's not even about the money for Dart. So I have heard that there are people who rent from Dart Realty and they don't actually make any money in Cayman Bay, but he will actually subsidize their rent in order to keep them in Cayman Bay to make it look like it's a bustling, happening town hall type of situation. So yeah, he's going to make sure the place looks good and all the spots are filled, even if you are losing money as a realtor, and he then has to help you with your rent, because more about the perception of Cayman Bay than anything else. That's right, Mark. That is absolutely 100% spot on. Mark says, remember, if you control the media, you control the narrative. And that is why business people get into media who have no concerns about anything else. They are, to a large extent, about trying to control how people think and view the world and how people see the world. And Mark goes on to say that's why they're trying to get you out. I do not doubt that for 1 minute. In fact, what I would say is, you know, at the end of the day, they can't stop the dissemination of information, no matter how hard they try. They've come at us in more ways than one, and it just isn't going to work. Like, they have to understand that there's space for different types of media. Yes, there's space for the Compass, and there are people who love the Compass and read nothing else. And there's space for CMR, and there's space for Cayman News Service, and we all have a right to be here to inform the people. Sharon says she doesn't really listen to the radio because when you sit in the car, the kids hook up to their iPods. Even when I listen to the radio, I listen to music. The second a commercial comes on, I gotta be honest with you, I flip to another station because I don't want to hear the commercial. I just want to hear music. Or I might have a CD, or like you said, Sharon, playing something from my phone. Morna, Sandy, my opinion on this, if you don't go to Dart, he's not coming to you. They know that Dart will buy it because Dart will buy your very soul if you go to him. Lord Jesus. My God. What a statement there, Morna. Woo! Dart is in the soul buying business. What the hell? It's such a fascinating way of looking at it. I mean, I gotta tell you, that's the kind of comment that really gives you pause. Will Dart buy anything just because it's offered to him? Sometimes, Morna. Sometimes he'll buy it. I was talking the other day about how he acquired Blackbeards strategically to get some of their licenses across the three islands, right? Their liquor license locations. But there are times when Dart isn't going to buy you out. He's going to build his own. And he's done that with a number of industries, right? He's not going to use local businesses. He's not going to compete with you. He's not going to use your services. He's just going to build his own because he's got all the money in the world and he can afford to do it. Sue agrees. She says, so true, Morna. They all sell their souls for the almighty dollar. So damn sad. Lizette says Cafe del Sol is the best. Dart is already involved in everything, says Sue. Good morning, Patty. South Marjorie says, OMG, because the Bay takes in the rich from around the world. So he'll do whatever to keep those rentals. Could this really be true? Yeah, I'm telling you, you're referring to what I said about how he subsidizes people. Yeah, that happens. Marjorie goes on to say, don't worry about them, Kim and Marvel. I promise y'all will keep it too real here. People will start come more than go. Yeah, listen, in 3 years, folks, in 3 years, we have managed to acquire and supersede Cayman News Service, who's been around for 10 years, over 10 years now. Loop Cayman, who was here before us. All these other entities, Cayman 27 is now gone. Listen, the numbers don't lie. They may have, 16,000 more followers or whatever than we do, or page likes, but still the people are engaging more. So the 10,000 plus, 16,000 plus less people that we have are still engaging way more than the people that they have on their platform. That's because people know, folks, that we are indeed the real deal. Folks, we're out of time. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. There was so much more that I actually wanted to get to, but 2 hours seems like hardly enough time, but it's all I've got. On Monday morning, someone did WhatsApp me. I did not get to discuss the employment situation as yet, but rest assured that I will. And I also want to talk about, there's something else on my agenda. I'm trying to remember now. But anyway, there's a couple other really key things that are happening in the community that are worth discussing. So folks, again, today's takeaway messages are please support the people of Central America. Go out there and donate to the various organizations. There's Red Cross, there's several local churches. There's the Cayman Islands, the Lions Club of Cayman Brac. They're all involved in trying to galvanize local efforts to help the people of Honduras. We're about a small country, but we can help. So do whatever you can to assist in terms of those fundraising efforts. I know everybody has, their own issues, but let's be your brother's keeper and help them where we can. And yes, on Monday's discussion, we will talk about an employment situation with a government agency. I think you're going to find this one really, really interesting. I hope that you'll tune in for that. And I think that's all we've got. We're watching some weather systems. Yes, we are. Please, folks, be safe for the weekend. No speeding, in key areas like Windsor Park. They are working on the roads, trying to repave them after the flooding that we had last week as well. And I got video footage yesterday of people speeding down Windsor Park. I'm like, what are you thinking? This is crazy. Anyway, good folks, as our outro video today, I got a little treat here for you. Let's hear, I think this is Cyndi Lauper, as Larry said earlier. Let us hear Cyndi Lauper's rendition of Crime After Crime, a special on outgoing President of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump.
Lying about everything, don't matter if it's small or big. Trying to solicit other countries to election rig. Taxes unpaid, net worth not so high. Money laundered, crime after conflicts of interest, like trademarks in China. Sexual harassment, like grabbing vaginas, spilling intel, putting spies at risk, obstructing justice. He's a thug, he's a crook, he's a president. Crime after crime, when he's gone, will the book they will draw at him. Crime after crime, he's insane, narcissistic, can't help himself. Crime after crime, when he falls, will the cops, they will be waiting. Crime after crime.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails.
If Russia, if China, if someone else offers you information on an opponent, should they accept it or should they call the FBI?
I think you might want to listen. China should start an investigation into the Biden.
Siding with Putin instead of the CIA, reducing his debt load by demanding lower interest rates, secret servers to hide his quid pro quos, hosting summits at Mar-a-Lago. He's a con man, a crook, that's our president. Crime after crime, pardons dangled to White House aides to break the law. Grammar mangled, he's a grifter, a crook, that's our president. Crime after crime, he's insane, narcissistic, can't help himself. Crime after crime, when it falls cuts.